What is going on, pro wrestling fans? My name is Jose Ramos Jr., bringing you another live reaction following Friday Night SmackDown. An eventful Friday Night SmackDown, I might add. I mean, obviously, in the last few weeks, a lot of people have been making complaints and comments about the repetitiveness in terms of the ending of SmackDown. You know, it always ending with the Bloodline beatdown, that being Solo Sikoa, the Tongans, Jacob Fatu. But a little bit something different occurred on this episode of SmackDown. Of course, a lot of anticipation following a successful SummerSlam would lead a lot of fans to this very episode to see finally the return of the OTC, the only tribal chief, Roman Reigns. And what I loved about that ending segment, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. What I loved about that ending segment is how over Roman was with that audience. Obviously, we all know that Roman's one of the top, characters, top wrestlers in the business, but to see him portrayed in such a positive light, at this point we are well into a babyface run of Roman Reigns, whether we like it or not. And to see the level of reaction that he received every time he gave out the good old ooh ah right before he hit that spear, Roman Reigns, man, looked like $1 million. I'm so happy to see him back in the WWE. So happy to see him involved in a top storyline. And one of my first real concerns was how long was it going to be? Obviously, we know Roman Reigns has a little bit of a part-time schedule, and he's earned that right, being that he's been with the company for well over 10 years now. He's been the top dog for well over 10 years now. So looking at it from this point of view, as long as we're getting compelling stories for the time that he is here, how can I be mad? There's a lot of times that we can pick out the little things and nitpick and just be upset about dumb things. But right now, at this point in time, I'm just happy to see the tribal chief back in a WWE ring. We saw the beginning of that segment, obviously Solo Sikoa coming out and proclaiming to everyone that he is the tribal chief. And he said if Roman Reigns has anything to say about that, and if he wants that Ula Fala back, that he needs to come over and take it back himself. And obviously, that cued Roman Reigns' new music. I'm a big fan of it. I made a point when I was watching it with my brother that it kind of reminds me of The Rock. How every time his music kind of evolved, it became more grander. It became big and bigger every time it evolved. Now with Roman Reigns, making his way down the ring, no hesitation, takes out Tamatanga and Tangaloa and unleashes hell on both of them. I'm talking steel steps to both individuals, and it almost seemed reckless in a way. I'm not saying he's a reckless worker, but something about the way Roman attacked them was different than that average attack that we see on WWE TV. He would let them have it before finally making his way into the ring against Solo Sikoa, and we got that face off. Solo versus Roman, the crowd again electrifying. It was a great moment in time, but before Roman could hit that spear, the Tongans were able to pull out Solo Sikoa, and right when Roman Reigns was about to get his hands on the Ulafala, reclaiming what was rightfully his, Tamatanga makes his way behind Roman and knocks him down. And then Solo Sikoa is obviously asking for the Ulafala back as he believes it's his rightful possession. And Tamatanga, I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but there was like this brief moment where Tamatanga examined the Ulafala, almost realizing the power that laid in his hands. And for a moment there, it kind of was, a little reminiscent to when Solo Sikoa was eyeing the Ulafala all those months, maybe a couple of years back. I don't know, I don't want to make too much of it, but little details like that, you never know. You never know when they're gonna pop back up. Obviously, he handed back to Solo Sikoa, and the two Tongans, Tamatanga and Tangaloa, would proceed to try to attack Roman again, but Roman would get the upper hand, beating them with both steel chairs, and essentially at one point he had speared Tamatanga through the barricade. A classic barricade spot, doesn't hurt nobody. But I mean, what a way to end the show. I think a lot of people anticipated that to be the ending, the main event segment of Friday Night SmackDown, if you will. We know Cody Rhodes is the WWE champion. It makes sense for him to open the show, and we'll get to that in a moment. But seeing Roman Reigns just deliver such a beating to his bloodline brethren. Well, to be fair, he never really included the Gorillas of Destiny in the bloodline. That was more of a Solo Sikoa call. So to see where we move forward here, We have Roman Reigns back for the foreseeable future. I'm hoping maybe in the coming weeks the numbers get to Roman. He can't, be on top all the time, right? Eventually, we're going to see Paul Heyman return. We're going to see Jimmy Uso return. And keep in mind, Jacob Fatu wasn't even on this episode of SmackDown because he's currently dealing with that injury. Now, we don't know the severity of the injury as of now, but I'm hoping it's not too crazy and that he's able to, return at a reasonable time. Obviously, we don't want him to worsen that injury, but at the same time, it's like Jacob Fatu is such a big piece to this current iteration of the Bloodline. He's clearly the most interesting in terms of in-ring work, in terms of just overall character, and the presence alone that Jacob Fatu has, dare I say, could match Roman Reigns. Having those two one-on-one in the ring alone, now that would be spectacular. Now, given that he's injured, he wasn't there, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise because I don't think you should be, taking advantage of that so early in the game. Right now, it's Solo versus Roman. You introduce Jacob, and that might take away about from the Solo and Roman aspect. But nonetheless, what a way to cap off an episode of SmackDown. Again, some people had a little bit of complaints about the complacency and the repetitiveness in regards to SmackDown, but overall a solid card in terms of matches. And we'll start with the opening, obviously. Cody Rhodes comes out, the reigning, defending WWE Champion after successfully defeating Solo Sikoa in the Bloodline Rules matchup. He comes out and talks about Bash in Berlin, who is going to face Cody Rhodes for the WWE title at Bash in Berlin. Not a lot of options if you ask me. He's already beaten AJ Styles twice. He beat Logan Paul. Solo Sikoa was just defeated on SummerSlam. Who else is there, right? A lot of other guys are already implemented in other storylines, or quite frankly, don't really have the cachet, the value of these other opponents that he's beaten. So who do you turn to? Well, he says, you know what? I'm going to give it to someone that has earned that right. Someone that he wants to handpick, and that's Kevin Owens. Something different here. Babyface versus babyface. I love it. I love that we're going to give Kevin Owens an opportunity at this championship and that it's built on respect. Who knows? Who's to say that Kevin Owens doesn't find a way to turn heel in this process? I'm not saying he will. I don't think he will, to tell you the truth. But who knows, right? Anything can happen. Kevin Owens initially is saying, you know what, I don't want this championship opportunity. I haven't earned it. There are plenty of other individuals who are worthy of this title opportunity. Personally, I can't think of many. The only other guy that I would argue is on Monday Night Raw now. He's going to challenge Gunther for the World Championship, and that's Randy Orton. And that's a matchup they're going to want to save for a big PLE, whether it's Survivor Series, whether it's the Royal Rumble, maybe even WrestleMania. We'll see. Kevin Owens, I think, is the right option here. You want to keep things fresh, and I think it's smart that they keep going back and forth in terms of babyface heel matchups for Cody Rhodes. Not only does it show he's a fighting champion, but it shows that he understands the weight of being the WWE champion has, and how he's willing to give opportunities to others even if they don't want it. And I thought that backstage segment with Nick Aldis was well done. Kevin Owens initially, again, was not in favor of this title opportunity, and Nick Aldis makes the comment of, well, I was talking to Roman Reigns about a championship opportunity, and Kevin Owens said, wait, hold on, wait a minute, you want to give Roman Reigns a championship opportunity just like that? And the argument to be made was, he lost the title at WrestleMania. He was the champion for over 1,300 days. The least he could do is give Roman an opportunity to get that title back. And Kevin Owens made a compelling argument here. He said, number one, he was champion for 4 years. He'll give him credit there. But that championship rematch clause hasn't really been placed in effect in a while. Yeah, we've seen rematches here and there. But there was a time being where a champion, upon losing their title, would get a rematch clause within the next 30 days. And then at some point during the dark ages of 2018 to 2020, the WWE decided to get rid of that, for better or for worse. And they haven't really followed it since then. Yeah, like I said, there's been instances where it's happened, but it hasn't been really, enforced as it was in the past. And upon hearing that, Kevin Owens said, you go to the locker room, open the door, and there is a bunch of wrestlers out there who have a better, not a better, but who are more worthy of a championship opportunities than a Roman Reigns, who's been gone for several months. And upon that, Nick Aldis said, "You're right. That's why we're giving you the championship opportunity, whether you like it or not." Great segment, I thought. It provides a level of logic as well as putting over everyone involved. It shows you that Roman was a dominant champion who will get a championship opportunity in the future. We don't know when, but logically it makes sense that he will want to gun for that championship that he held for 1,316 days. It puts over Cody Rhodes as a fighting champion willing to take on all comers, recognizing who is worthy of his title. And it puts over Kevin Owens because he's looking at the roster saying, hey, we have one of the best rosters in the world. This roster currently constructed is one of the best rosters that WWE has had in quite some time. It's showing that acknowledgement, no pun intended, to everyone involved. Even Nick Aldis looked great because he was a logical, authority figure who just wants to put on the best matches for the audience. I love it. Something simple, but I loved it. We moved on and we saw a pair of tag team matches in planning on crowning a new number one contenders for the tag team titles. Obviously, we know that the Bloodlines Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga won the tag team titles a week ago in a surprising fashion. I didn't think they were going to have DIY lose their titles only a month in. But we saw the Street Profits defeat A-Town Down Under and DIY defeating Pretty Deadly, both in pretty entertaining matches. And I love tag team matches, especially when you get the energy flowing, you get everyone going, and it's a good, fun, jolly time. DIY, Street Profits, I think is the right call. A lot of times you see heels versus baby faces when it comes to these number one contenders matches, but they have the Street Profits and DIY, and what probably should be the main event of next week's SmackDown. Again, high profile tag teams. You can make serious arguments for both involved. DIY, who had just lost their tag team titles, wanting to exact revenge on the Bloodline, who took the titles away from them a week ago, and the Street Profits, who did mention it has been a few years since they've held championship gold. The line in itself really makes me think that the Street Profits are going to go over in that number one contenders match. Yeah, I would love to see DIY get a championship opportunity and regain the titles that they just barely won. But the Street Profits haven't won the championships in a few years, and it'd be something fresh, it'd be something different. And given that the status of the Street Profits has kind of declined in the last year or so, especially seeing how Bobby Lashley is no longer affiliated with the WWE. Of course, rumors and reports are saying he's still under contract, but it seems like he's going to be stepping away from the company pretty sooner rather than later. I think it's a smart idea to have the Street Profits go over, give them something to do, give them something of note, and have them face off against probably Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, given that Jacob Fatu probably isn't cleared yet. I think it was a good idea. I love it. I'm a fan of it. We also moved past to another championship, the United States champion, LA Knight, with some new music, a little bit of a revamped version of his entrance theme. It's going to take me quite some time to get used to it. Luckily, it's not too different, and they didn't go ahead and butcher the whole damn thing. And the reception. Again, what a crowd. The reception that LA Knight had received, they were hanging on to every single word of his promo, having everybody all together saying, LA Knight, yeah. And the way that championship just looks on LA Knight, I'm so happy they finally pulled the trigger and gave him a championship opportunity. He looks like he belongs. He looks truly like a megastar. And I know he just won the US title. Let's enjoy this title reign. But I don't know, man. I could see a world title in his future, whether it's the WWE title or the World Heavyweight Championship. LA Knight is going to be a world champion. And of course, if you read the reports, apparently he signed a new deal with the WWE. We don't know for how long. A guy who earned his keep in the company, putting himself over not only on the mic, but in the ring. After that, we saw a number one contenders matchup between Andrade and Santos Escobar in a good matchup, a real entertaining matchup, having similar styles going up one another. And I think the right call was made. Santos Escobar already having kind of an established feud with LA Knight, I think it makes sense to have that being his first title defense. Now, whether or not that takes place at Bash in Berlin or in an episode of SmackDown, probably the SmackDown before Bash, because that's kind of been the trend that the WWE's been doing as of late. I think it's a great choice. I think it's a great mesh of styles. You had a good confrontation between the two on the mic prior to that number one contenders match. Overall, just a great segment, and followed by a great match. This SmackDown I thought was an improvement over the last ones, and I would be remiss to not mention Jade Cargill, of course, defeating Alba Fire in what was a good matchup. Obviously, wasn't given too much time, but they're really focusing in on this, trio women's group against, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and Blair Davenport up against the big three of Jade, Bianca, and Naomi. Again, an eventful episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I was a fan of it. It was fun. I want to know what you guys thought, though. Go ahead and comment down below your initial thoughts to this episode of SmackDown. What are you thinking about the initial look that we're going through with this Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa feud? How do you feel about Kevin Owens being the next challenger for Cody Rhodes' WWE title? Overall, good episode. I want to know what you guys thought, though. Thank you guys again for joining me on this reaction to Friday Night SmackDown. Please remember to like and comment. Also subscribe to the channel in order to keep up to date with all the pro wrestling content that is produced on this channel. And of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. and I will see you all next time.